first thing we're going to do on this technique is we're going to get really watery ink or paint, and we're just going to put on one really thin coat. Make sure that you're covering up everything so you don't have any white areas or raw clay areas showing. I'm going to use colored pencils, pastels, and paint. First layer that I'm going to put down is going to be colored pencils. And I'm going to do this in the background area. I'm not putting it on very thick. I'm putting it on fairly see-through. If you put on the colored pencils too thick, then a lot of times they will build up and become too waxy and make it difficult to put colors over other colors. I am working in what's called an analogous color scheme. You look at the color wheel, which I have posted on the board or on the slides. Analogous is going to be any 3 to 5 colors next to each other on the color wheel. So for this, I have chosen a blue and a purple. From blue, blue, purple, blue, green. That's kind of my analogous color scheme that I'm using. Again, I'm just doing this fairly quickly, so this isn't going to look perfect by any means. But our dry brushing is really what is going to bring this out. So I'm not going to color directly onto the pottery with the pastel. I'm just going to put a little bit onto my finger. And I'm not necessarily going to put it all over. I'm just going to put some parts of it in certain areas. You might need to use a paper towel to wipe off your fingers a little bit. And again, I'm just going to add this to some small areas. I'm not trying to cover up all of the color that I put on underneath it. You kind of want your colors to show through. So our next step is that we're going to do some dry brushing. So for dry brushing, it's really important that you have a nice thick thing of paper towels and that you also have a dry brush. That's the whole point of dry brushing. So make sure that there is no water left in your brush. And with dry brushing, you're going to want to mix up some of the colors that you already have on here. So I have a little bit of a sand color. So I'm going to use a little bit of white and a little bit of brown, over here. And this might end up being too light. I'm gonna mix just a tiny bit of yellow. And again, you're trying to wipe it off on the paper towel so that you are just depositing a little bit onto the sand. I don't necessarily want to cover up everything that was underneath before. I'm going to add a little bit of a lighter color. I want a little bit of yellow on there. I don't want to cover up everything that was there. And then I can even continue going a little bit lighter. And that's the whole point of this, is that you don't want this whole thing. People will say, well, we're painting it all black. How am I going to get it lighter? By gradually layering up your layers. If it ends up getting too dull in color, you can also go back in and add a little bit of colored pencil over the top of it. So say I was like, okay, I really don't like how this got a little bit too light. I can actually go back in And you can see how I can punch up and add a little bit back in of these warm colors a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of that ocean color, mix up a little bit, and mix up a little bit of blue. You can see this is very, very dark. This isn't gonna show up. So sometimes adding a tiny bit of white helps with that a little bit. And again, I don't want to cover up everything that I did before. I just want to add a little bit. I don't want the sky to end up looking like the same color as my ocean color. I know I'm using a fairly large brush to do this. A little bit of a pain, but I think it'll work for what I'm trying to do. We are at the end of 2 weeks of this, so the brushes that we have left in our high school studio are looking a little sad. If you get too much, just wipe off your brush again. I'm going to actually go in and lighten up my clouds a little bit here. I don't want my clouds to blend in to my background. I'm actually going to wash out my brush. I come back in with white. To actually add in maybe a tiny bit of some yellow, maybe some sunset colors to that. Just a little bit. I don't want to cover the white, I just want to add a little smidge. I can actually add some colored pencil back over this. Key is if you keep it really thin, you can actually come back in with these other colors. If you layer it on too thick, then it could actually scratch off the color that you're going back in and putting in when you're done. And you can basically keep layering. But the key is to basically make that last layer be the lightest layer that you're doing. Again, you can go back in and you can watercolor. So say you want to warm it up a little bit, I can take a tiny bit of orange. And if I wanted to, I could make a really watery layer of orange if I wanted to, and add a little bit of a gradient in there. So that's what's really kind of cool about using these paints, is that you can layer them back up. You can do, you can just keep going with it. You can layer it up and then you can go back in and add highlights again if you want to. And there's a few examples. Looks like I splattered a little bit of paint on there. You can see that I used the dry brushing on here to really bring up the highlight on the taco, the lime, the banner. There you go.